Cleveland abduction story, my brothers and sisters. Between 2002 and 2004, Ariel Castro abducted Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina De Jesus from the roads of Cleveland, Ohio, and later held them captive in his home at 2207 Seymour Avenue in the city's Tremont neighborhood. All three women were imprisoned at Castro's home until 2013, when Berry successfully escaped with her 6-year-old daughter, to whom she had given birth while captive, and contacted the police. Police rescued Knight and De Jesus, and arrested Castro hours later. Ariel Castro kidnapping victims. From left to right, Amanda Berry, Gina De Jesus, and Michelle Knight. Location 2207 Seymour Avenue, Tremont, Cleveland, Ohio. U.S. coordinates 41°28'21 N 81°41'53 W. Date August 23, 2002 to May 6, 2013. Attack type: kidnapping, rape, aggravated murder, attempted murder. Assault victims: Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, Gina De Jesus. Perpetrator: Ariel Castro. Castro was charged with 4 counts of kidnapping and 3 counts of rape. He pled guilty to 937 criminal counts of rape, kidnapping, and aggravated murder as part of a plea bargain. He was sentenced to life imprisonment plus 1,000 years in prison without the possibility of parole. 1 month into his life sentence, Castro died by suicide by hanging himself with bedsheets in his prison cell. Kidnapper background: edit. Ariel Castro was born in Dewey, Yauco, Puerto Rico, the son of Pedro Castro and Lillian Rodriguez. His parents divorced when he was a child, and he moved to the contiguous United States with his mother and 3 biological siblings. The family first lived in Exton, Pennsylvania, before settling in Cleveland, Ohio, where Castro's father and several other family members were living. He had 9 siblings. Castro was a devout Catholic. Castro was sexually and physically abused throughout his childhood. He was molested starting at the age of 5 by a neighbor in Puerto Rico and was also raped by an uncle. His mother had physically abused him by striking him with belts, sticks, and an open hand. Castro attended Lincoln West High School in Cleveland. Castro met his girlfriend, Gramilda Figueroa, when his family moved into a house across the street from hers in the 1980s. Castro and Figueroa lived with both sets of their parents until they moved into their own home at 2207 Seymour Avenue, located in Cleveland's Tremont neighborhood, in 1992. Their home was a 2-story, 1,400 square foot, 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with a 760 square foot unfinished basement built in 1890 and remodeled in 1956. According to Figueroa's sister, Elita Caraballo, she said that all hell started breaking loose after the couple moved into their new home. Caraballo claimed that Castro beat Figueroa, breaking her nose, ribs, and arms and causing a blood clot on her brain that resulted in an inoperable tumor. He also threw her down a flight of stairs, cracking her skull. In 1993, Castro was arrested for domestic violence, but was not indicted by a grand jury. In 1996, Figueroa moved out of the house and secured custody of their 4 children. Police assisted in the move and detained Castro, but they did not press charges. Castro continued to threaten and attack Figueroa after she left him. Figueroa filed charges in 2005 in Cuyahoga County Domestic Relations Court, which accused Castro of inflicting multiple severe injuries on her and of frequently abducting their daughters. The court granted her a temporary restraining order against Castro, but it was dismissed a few months later. Figueroa died in 2012 due to complications from her brain tumor. Before his arrest at age 52, Castro worked as a bus driver for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District until he was fired in November 2012 for bad judgment, including making an illegal U-turn with infants and toddlers on his bus, using his bus to go grocery shopping, leaving a child on the bus while he went for lunch at Wendy's, and leaving the bus unattended while he took a nap at home. He was earning $18.91 per hour when he was discharged. At the time of his arrest, Castro's home was in foreclosure after 3 years of unpaid real estate taxes. Kidnappings: edit. Castro's home at 2207 Seymour Avenue. It was demolished on August 7, 2013. As part of Castro's plea bargain, Castro kidnapped his victims by offering them a ride. He drove each to his home at 2207 Seymour Avenue, lured them inside, took them to the basement, and restrained them. Michelle Knight edit Michelle Knight disappeared on August 23, 2002, after leaving a cousin's house. She was 21 years old at the time. On the day of her disappearance, she was scheduled to appear in court for a child custody case involving her son Joey, who was in the custody of the state. Following Knight's rescue, police acknowledged that limited resources had been spent on investigating her disappearance, in part because she was an adult. Authorities believed that she had run away voluntarily due to anger over losing custody of her son. According to Cleveland Deputy Police Chief Ed Tomba, she was the focus of very few tips. Some criticized her subsequent removal from the National Crime Information Center database 15 months after she disappeared, which made her largely unknown prior to her rescue. The Cleveland Division of Police and the Federal Bureau of Investigation maintained that her inclusion or exclusion had no bearing on her rescue. Amanda Berry edit Amanda Marie Berry disappeared on April 21, 2003, the day before her 17th birthday. She was last heard from around 8:00 p.m. when she called her sister to tell her that she was getting a ride home from her job at a Burger King at the corner of Lorraine Avenue and West 110th Street. The FBI initially considered her a runaway until a week after her disappearance, when an unidentified male used her cell phone to call her mother. He said, "I have Amanda. She's fine and will be coming home in a couple of days." Berry was featured in a 2004 segment of Fox's America's Most Wanted, which linked her to Gina DeJesus, who by that point had also gone missing in Cleveland. Berry and DeJesus were profiled on The Oprah Winfrey Show and The Montel Williams Show, where self-proclaimed psychic Sylvia Brown told Berry's mother Luana Miller in November 2004 that her daughter was dead and that she was in water. This pronouncement devastated her mother, causing her to take down pictures and give away Berry's computer. However, Miller continued to search for Berry before dying from heart failure in early March 2006. Later that year, on December 25, 2006, Berry gave birth to a daughter. DNA evidence has confirmed that Castro was the father of the child. Robert Wolford was a prison inmate who had lived in Tremont, and he claimed in July 2012 that he had information about the location of Berry's body. He led police to an empty lot on Cleveland's west side, where they conducted a fruitless search. He was sentenced in January 2013 to 4 + 12 years in prison for obstruction of justice, making a false report, and making a false alarm. Gina DeJesus edit 2004 FBI sketch of a suspect in DeJesus's disappearance. Georgina Lynn DeJesus went missing on April 2, 2004, at age 14. She was last seen at a payphone around 3:00 p.m. while on the way home from her middle school at West 105th Street and Lorraine Avenue. At the time, she was friends with Castro's daughter Arlene. Shortly before Gina disappeared, she and Arlene had called Arlene's mother, Gramilda Figueroa, for permission to have a sleepover at DeJesus's house, but Figueroa replied that they could not, and the two girls parted ways. Arlene was the last person to see DeJesus before her disappearance. DeJesus was under the impression that Castro was picking her up to drop her off at home, and she trusted Castro because she was friends with his teenage daughter. No one witnessed her abduction, and an Amber Alert was not issued, which angered her father. He said in 2006, "The Amber Alert should work for any missing child. Whether it's an abduction or a runaway, a child needs to be found. We need to change this law." A year after DeJesus's disappearance, the FBI released a composite sketch and description of a male suspect, described as Latino, 25 to 35 years of age, 5 feet 10 inches, 165 to 185 pounds, with green eyes, a goatee, and possibly a pencil-thin beard. According to court records, Castro was 5 feet 7 inches, 179 pounds, with brown eyes and a goatee. DeJesus was featured in the America's Most Wanted segment, which linked her to Berry. The disappearances received regular media attention into 2012, while the families held public vigils. Castro attended at least 2 of these vigils, reportedly participated in a search party, and tried to get close to the De Jesus family. Castro's son Anthony was a journalism student in 2004, and he interviewed De Jesus's mother for an article about the disappearances in the Plain Press newspaper. Police kept the investigation open and offered a $25,000 reward for information. According to Castro's uncle, his family knew the De Jesus family and had lived in the same neighborhood. Castro falsely claimed that he was not aware that De Jesus was a member of that family when he abducted her. Captivity edit: upon kidnapping Michelle Knight, Castro took her to the upper floor of his house, tied her hands and feet together, and pulled her up using her hands, feet, and neck. He left her there for 3 days without food. Prosecutors at Castro's sentencing wrote that diaries kept by his victims speak of forced sexual conduct, being locked in a dark room, anticipating the next session of abuse, dreams of someday escaping and being reunited with family, being chained to a wall, being held like a prisoner of war, missing the lives they once enjoyed, emotional abuse, Castro's threats to kill them, being treated like an animal, continuous abuse, and desiring freedom. The women were kept in locked bedrooms, where they were forced to use plastic toilets that were emptied infrequently. They were fed 1 meal a day and allowed to shower twice a week at most. Knight told police that Castro had impregnated her at least 5 times and had induced miscarriages each time through beatings, hitting her with dumbbells, punching her, and slamming her against walls. He also starved her. Knight's grandmother told reporters that she would require facial reconstruction surgery due to the beatings that she endured and had lost hearing in one ear. At one point, Knight had a pet dog while in captivity, but Castro killed it by snapping its neck after it bit him while trying to protect Knight. De Jesus told law enforcement that she was raped, but did not believe that she was ever impregnated. On Christmas Day 2006, Castro allegedly ordered Knight to assist in the birth of Barry's child, which took place in a small inflatable swimming pool, and threatened to kill her if the baby did not survive. At one point, the baby stopped breathing, but Knight was able to resuscitate her. Castro occasionally took Barry's daughter out of the house, including to visit his mother. She called him Daddy and Castro's mother grandmother. In 2013, he showed one of his adult daughters a picture of the child and said that she was his girlfriend's daughter from a previous relationship. He had told others that she was his granddaughter. Barry taught her daughter how to read and write. According to a statement from the CDP, officers visited Castro's home only once following the kidnappings to discuss an unrelated incident. Castro did not appear to be home at the time and was later interviewed elsewhere. Neighbors have said that they called the police about suspicious activity observed at the home, but police claim that they have no record of any such calls. Castro's son Anthony reported that there were certain areas of the house that were locked and inaccessible. He also mentioned an occasion 3 weeks before the women's escape when Castro asked him if Barry would ever be found. Anthony said that he told Castro that Barry was likely dead, to which Castro responded, "Really? You think so?" NBC affiliate WKYC reported that Castro recalled each of the 3 abductions in great detail during his interrogation and indicated that they were unplanned crimes of opportunity. According to WKYC sources, Castro did not have an exit plan and believed that he would eventually be caught. He referred to himself as cold-blooded and a sex addict. Police found a suicide note in the house in which he discussed the abductions and wrote that his money and possessions should be given to the kidnapped women if he were caught. Escape and rescue edit: on the morning of May 6, 2013, Barry was finally able to make contact with Castro's neighbors, leading to her escape with her 6-year-old daughter and the rescue of De Jesus and Knight by authorities. According to police, Castro had left the house that day and Barry realized that he had failed to lock the big inside door, although the exterior storm door was bolted. She did not attempt to break through the outer door because she thought that Castro was testing her, according to the police report. Previously, Castro had tested the women by leaving the house partially unlocked and exits unsecured. If they attempted to escape, he beat them. Instead, Barry screamed for help when she saw neighbors through the screen. Neighbors have offered differing views of the escape. According to Berry in her memoir, Hope, a memoir of survival in Cleveland, neighbor Angel Cordero responded to the screaming, but left as he was unable to communicate with Berry because he was a Spanish speaker who spoke little English. Neighbor Charles Ramsey arrived at the scene and suggested kicking out the storm door's bottom panel. Together, Ramsey and Berry kicked a hole through the bottom of the door and Berry crawled through with her daughter. Ramsey said that Berry told him that she and her child were being kept inside the house against her will. Upon being freed, Ramsey called 911 from his home while Berry called as well from the home of another neighbor, saying, "Help me, I've been kidnapped, and I've been missing for 10 years. And I'm here. I'm free now." Responding police officers Michael Tracy, Barbara Johnson, and Anthony Espada entered Castro's house. They walked through an upstairs hallway with guns drawn, announcing themselves as CPD. After peeking out from a slightly open bedroom door, Knight entered the hallway and leaped into an officer's arms, repeatedly saying, "You saved me." Soon afterward, De Jesus entered the hallway from another room. Knight and De Jesus walked out of the house, and all three women, plus the child, were taken to Metra Health Medical Center. Berry and De Jesus were released from the hospital the next day, and Knight was discharged 4 days later on May 10th. Arrest and legal proceedings. Edit screenshot showing Castro's interrogation by the FBI. Castro was arrested in a McDonald's parking lot shortly after the victims were rescued. He was charged with 4 counts of kidnapping and 3 counts of rape on May 8, which carry prison sentences of 10 years to life in Ohio. 2 of Castro's brothers, Pedro and Amal, were also initially taken into custody, but were released on May 9 after police announced that they had no involvement in the kidnappings. The charges against the 2 brothers were dropped. Castro made his first court appearance at the Cleveland Municipal Court on May 9, where bail was set at $2 million per kidnapping charge, adding to a total of $8 million. Prosecutors intended to seek the death penalty against Castro. Additional charges were reported to be pending, including aggravated murder, attempted murder, assault, a charge for each instance of rape, and a kidnapping charge for each day each captive was held. On May 14, Castro's attorneys said he would plead not guilty to all charges if indicted for kidnapping and rape. A Cuyahoga County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment against Castro on June 7. It contained 329 counts, including 2 counts of aggravated murder for his role in the termination of one of the women's pregnancies. The indictments covered only the period from August 2002 to February 2007. The county prosecutor, Timothy J. McGinty, stated that the investigation was ongoing and that any further findings would be presented to the grand jury. McGinty said that pursuing a death penalty specification would be considered following completion of indictment proceedings. After entering a not guilty plea for Castro on June 12, one of his attorneys, Craig Weintraub, said that although some of the charges against Castro were indisputable, it is our hope that we can continue to work toward a resolution to avoid having an unnecessary trial about aggravated murder and the death penalty. He noted, "We are very sensitive to the emotional strain and impact that a trial would have on the women, their families, and this community." Castro was found competent to stand trial on July 3. On July 12, a Cuyahoga County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment for the remainder of the period after February 2007. It brought the total to 977 counts, 512 counts of kidnapping, 446 of rape, 7 of gross sexual imposition, 6 of felonious assault, 3 of child endangerment, 2 of aggravated murder, and 1 of possession of criminal tools. On July 17, Castro pleaded not guilty to the expanded indictment. He faced death by lethal injection if convicted on all of the charges. Castro pleaded guilty on July 26 to 937 of the 977 charges against him, including charges of kidnapping, rape, and aggravated murder, as part of a plea bargain which called for consecutive sentences of life in prison plus 1,000 years, all without parole. Under the plea deal, Castro forfeited his right to appeal and could not profit in any way due to his crimes. He also forfeited his assets, including his Seymour Avenue house, which prosecutors said would be demolished. Castro was told by Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court Judge Michael Russo, "You will not be getting out." "Is that clear?" To which Castro responded, "I do understand that, Your Honor." Castro also made comments about his addiction to pornography and sexual problem, but was cut off by Judge Russo, who said such issues could be discussed at the August 1st sentencing hearing. A law firm representing Berry, De Jesus, and Knight released a statement that the three women were relieved by today's plea. They are satisfied by this resolution to the case and are looking forward to having these legal proceedings draw to a final close in the near future. At the sentencing hearing on August 1st, Castro was sentenced to consecutive life terms in prison, plus 1,000 years, all without any possibility of parole. He was also fined $100,000. The court forfeited all of his property and assets to the Cuyahoga County government. Before his sentencing, Castro addressed the court for nearly 20 minutes, in which he said he was a good person and not a monster, but that he was addicted to sex and pornography and had practiced the art of masturbation from a young age. He claimed that he had never beaten or tortured the women, and insisted that most of the sex he had with them was consensual. He shifted between apologizing and blaming the FBI for failing to catch him, as well as blaming his victims themselves for getting in a car with a stranger, along with insisting to the court that when he had sex with them, he discovered they were not virgins. He would alternately shift back into apologetic comments, saying, "I hope they can find in their hearts to forgive me because we had a lot of harmony going on in that home." The sentencing judge also heard from Knight and family members of Berry and De Jesus. Knight told Castro, "You took 11 years of my life away. I spent 11 years in hell, now your hell is just beginning. I will overcome all that has happened, but you will face hell for eternity. I will live on, you will die a little every day as you think of the 11 years of atrocities that you inflicted on us. I can forgive you, but I will never forget." Aftermath Edit survivors Edit Knight, Berry, and De Jesus released a video statement on July 9, 2013, thanking the public for their support. An attorney for Berry and De Jesus said that the women still have a strong desire for privacy and did not wish to speak to the media about their ordeal. The Cleveland Courage Fund is a bank account set up to help the women in their transition to independent life, which had collected approximately $1.05 million at the time of the video's release. Before Berry's disappearance, her grandfather had promised to give her a classic Chevrolet Monte Carlo, built in the year when she was born. He kept the car after her kidnapping in case she was still found alive. He still had it for her when she was released, although it was in need of restoration from having been unused. Several automotive shops offered to perform the restoration for free. Knight discussed some of her ordeals in an interview with People magazine 1 year after her release, as well as her life leading up to her abduction. Since her rescue, she legally changed her name and began to get several tattoos as her way of coping with the healing process. She also revealed that her son was adopted by his foster parents while she was in captivity and that she wanted to see him, but she does not want to bring him into the ordeal which she has had to deal with, and planned to see him after he becomes an adult. She planned to open a restaurant and dreamed of getting married, which she did in 2016, and hopes to adopt children, as her years of abuse and torture have made it unlikely for her to ever be able to give birth again. She also planned to reunite with Berry and De Jesus in the future, but began focusing on getting her own life back on track. Berry and De Jesus received honorary diplomas from John Marshall High School in 2015. In an interview with WKYC, De Jesus says that she was volunteering for the Amber Alert Committee, offering comfort to families of abducted children. She remains in touch with Berry and her family. In February 2017, Berry joined the staff of Fox affiliate WJW in Cleveland, where she hosts short recurring segments in which she reports missing person cases in order to help families reunite with missing family members. In April 2019, Berry reunited with Charles Ramsey, 6 years since her rescue, at an interview that was broadcast on WJW. House demolition Edit the former site of Castro's home on 2207 Seymour Avenue in June 2014, 10 months after the demolition as part of the plea bargain. The house where Castro had lived and held the women captive was demolished on August 7, 2013. Knight was present and handed out yellow balloons to spectators, which she said represented missing children. The balloons were released before De Jesus's aunt began the demolition with a swing of a crane. The house has been completely blurred out on the street view of Google Maps. A park and garden now sits in the spot formerly occupied by Castro's house. Castro's death. Castro was found hanging from a bed sheet in his detention cell at the Correctional Reception Center in Orient, Ohio, on the evening of September 3, 2013, 1 month into his life sentence. He was 53 at the time of his death. Prison staff performed CPR on him before he was taken to the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center in Columbus, where he was pronounced dead shortly after. The following day, Franklin County Coroner Jan Gorniak announced that a preliminary autopsy had found the cause of Castro's death to be suicide by hanging. He was later cremated. On October 10, 2013, the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction released a report which suggested that Castro may have died accidentally from autoerotic asphyxiation rather than suicide. Gorniak rejected the possibility, standing by her ruling of suicide. The report also said that 2 prison guards had falsified logs documenting their observation of Castro hours before he was found dead. He was not on suicide watch at the time of his death, but had been subjected to routine checks every 30 minutes due to his notoriety. A consultant's report was released on December 3 and officially concluded that all available evidence pointed to suicide, including a shrine-like arrangement of family pictures and a Bible in Castro's cell, an increasing tone of frustration in his prison journal, and the reality of spending the rest of his life in prison while subject to constant harassment. The Ohio State Highway Patrol also reviewed the case and reached the same conclusion. Castro's family. Some of Castro's immediate family members disowned him, denounced his actions, and apologized to the victims and their families. Members of Castro's extended family in Puerto Rico alleged that a demon inside him made him lose his mind. Castro's son, Ariel Anthony Castro, refused to visit his father in prison. He also struggled with sharing the same name as his father. Castro's daughter, Emily Castro, was found guilty of attempted murder after she slashed her 11-month-old daughter's throat 4 times with a knife on April 4, 2007, the day after the baby's father moved out of their home. She was serving her 25-year prison sentence during and after the kidnappings. In January 2014, Castro's nephew, Jeremiah J. Alicia, was arrested for and charged with 22 counts related to child pornography, including 21 counts of pandering sexually oriented matter involving a minor and 1 count of possessing a criminal tool. Media depictions. Books. Ramsey, Charles. Dead Giveaway, The Rescue, Hamburgers, White Folks, and Instant Celebrity. What you saw on TV doesn't begin to tell the story. Cleveland, Gray and Company. ISBN 978-193-8441516. Knight, Michelle, Burford, Michelle. Finding Me, A Decade of Darkness, A Life Reclaimed, a memoir of the Cleveland kidnappings. New York, Weinstein Books. ISBN 978-1602862579. Knight, Michelle. Life After Darkness, Finding Healing and Happiness After the Cleveland Kidnappings. Paris, Hachette Books. ISBN 978-1602865754. Glatt, John. The Lost Girls, The True Story of the Cleveland Abductions and the Incredible Rescue of Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina De Jesus. London, Macmillan. ISBN 978-1250036360. Berry, Amanda, De Jesus, Gina, Jordan, Mary, Sullivan, Kevin. Hope, A Memoir of Survival in Cleveland. London, Penguin. ISBN 978-0698178953. Films. Cleveland Abduction. Lifetime. 2015, The Cleveland Kidnappings. Discovery Plus. 2021. If you like this video, Please share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel and other social media platforms to my brothers and sisters.